Five, four, three, two, one, and we're on back again with let's see if we get it. What is it? What
Life
is it?
Leaders Podcast.
Yeah, finally we got it right. We got it right, and that's what's so great about it is that we don't take it serious. We're just here to have a good conversation, and you know,
Uh-huh.
we're supposed to have a guest today actually, and she's an old friend of mine from the United States back when I was in high school, and she happens to be a nurse. And she's got her opinions. She's what people would call like conservative, and I don't really go for either conservative or liberal or Democrat. I think there are good ideas on both camps, and I think just kind of like putting yourself in one specific thing is not necessarily good because you
Mm.
get too invested in something, and then it just you become too polarized to the point where even if the truth that you are seeking for is in your face,
Mm.
you won't you won't accept it, or you won't
I feel like my personal opinion is like monarchy is the old school way, is the way that things used to be, and all these new school. Obviously, we have to give room for the new school, but I
yeah,
think
yeah.
monarchy is where it's at. You know, when we had the king and his his operation, the king operates and everybody follows the king.
Well,
You know that was
as long as the king was righteous, though, because
yes, yes.
you had a lot of wanker kings too. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
were
that's
talking
right.
about
That's right.
the fucking
That's right.
emperor or king from Thailand who's all
He had,
pimped
he
out
had
and
to
shit.
be he had to be upright and doing the right thing.
Well, anyway, so yeah, I totally agree with you too, man. There's
Yeah,
some
back to your guest. He was on about your
yeah, yeah. But anyway, so bottom line at the end now, I guess she asked me if this was available in Japan and in the US. It's like, yeah, it's a podcast. It goes on YouTube, so it's pretty much international. So I guess she's had some legal problems because I think since she refused to get the cocktail, the juicy cocktail of goodness.
Monaco.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. And she I think she was let go or something like that, and so she's moved on to other pastures where they can respect her choice to proceed with the juicy cocktail or not. And so anyway,
Mm-hmm.
bottom line at the end, she said I her legal team advised against her because it might be detrimental to her license. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
to
fair
her
enough.
license. It's kind of a bummer because I just kind of wanted to see not so much to like fear and fear because I don't really want to follow that whole macaroni 19 bullshit. I live my life the way I live it. I'm happy. I don't wear a mask, but if other people want a mask on, mask on, mask off, mask
Mm.
off, like Mr. Miyagi did, mask off, mask on.
Yeah.
But I kind of respect it. It was just I just wanted to kind of hear just from straight instead of just watching it on YouTube myself, just hearing it from other people. And
Yeah, from that in the know, I suppose.
yes, yes, yes.
Because like she might have some information that we're not privy to, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that could be helpful for both ways of viewers, not just both ways of view, because I think people there's not just two camps. I think people are concerned all the way around, and it's just nice to get information without being
Mhm.
labeled. And real quick, because I want to move on from that, I don't want to stay in this. Everybody's harping on it and
Yeah.
trying to make money from it too. But do you remember when it first came out, dude? Remember when they were posting picture like video footage of people in China? Like there was this one geezer that was in the corner. He was standing in the street and then suddenly he starts shaking, standing up, and
Yeah,
he just collapses. I mean, and that shit freaked me out at first.
and the guy eating the bats.
Yeah,
Apparently, remember that's when it all started.
yeah, and it was a load of shit, dude, because nobody was dropping like that. And so, you know, it's not.
People have died from many things. Many things have killed people, and they've not come into the limelights. They've not come into the spotlight. You know, people are dying every day of things. People are being born every day. It's a continuous cycle. You know,
Exactly.
because they like to focus on one end of the spectrum, but how about the other end where people are being born? You know, people
right?
die, people
That's
are
what I'm
born.
talking about. And
It's like,
now that we'll start flowing that way, is that, you know, what this podcast is all about, even though we might come up with some topics that are so-called freaky uh at times, like the Lucy Juicy Goosey, uh what people don't realize, and what we want to talk about is like everything has, you know, you have a night and a day. And what people don't realize, that's right, that it's not just war that's happening right now. It's not just Russia invading Ukraine. You know, how about the old lady right down the street from your house that gets out of the store with a little French baguette and looks at you, and she drops her French baguette, and then you pick it up for her and you give it to her. And she's like, "Oh, thank you so much, young man." And it's, "Ah, you're welcome." There's a mutual smile, and right across the street there's a hospital, like you're saying, and a baby's being born. You know,
yes,
and it's been open in its eyes. And some people might look at it negative, but yes, being born into this cruel world, it's not just cruel. Life is chaotic, yes, but there's a beauty in it, and there's a lot more beauty happening than we're being led to believe. Like
it's
everything,
all perspective. With the
yeah.
perspective, everyone's focusing on the one little dark side, but the darkness is not consuming the whole planet. There's lights, but
Yeah,
why is nobody focusing on the lights?
yeah. Well, you know, we've said it many times here, and it's about it's about control, man. People are easier to control when they're scared. You can get anyone to do anything if you freak them out. If I come up to the neighbor and say, "Hey, motherfucker, if you don't do what I ask you to do, I'm not only going to take away your food and your water and
Mm.
your work, but I'm going to chop your wife's toes off. And if you don't listen to me, then I'm going to chop your fucking toes off. And then I'm
And
going
he's
to,
focusing, and
yeah,
he's focusing on all the threats, but he's failing to realize that there's a number called 911, and in UK it's called 999, where you call a bunch of these guys. I'll come over and grab this guy and put him
right.
inside the cage.
And
So,
beat his ass.
but they don't focus on. I mean, I'm not saying that's the only way out. I'm just saying that's one way out. There's other ways. You could also, I mean,
Well,
talk to him. You could also maybe appeal to touch his heart and find out the reason why he's so angry. And
there's always a way out, or you can always just say, "Oh yeah, well, before you even go that way, it's my life, so I'm gonna take it."
yeah, I know that I was gonna get to that one, yeah, but that's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the whole.
yeah. I mean,
That's a bit like we see that as a last resort because
yeah,
in the
of
world we
course.
live in now, everyone's sensitive or no violence, but in reality, that was the role of the man. It was like you come and you threaten the man's family, and he's not negotiating with you. He's breaking stuff. You know, he's breaking bones, and he's making sure that you don't get to his family.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
nowadays, the way it's almost like society is built now, so the man doesn't need to be strong anymore. So they're conditioning violence and aggression out of the men. In the days when men had to work, when they required men to work to build this thing that we call society now. That was when they needed the man's morale to be strong. Listen, you come to my family, I'll bash your head, I'll do this, because they needed us to have that strong mentality. But now everything's already built. And now they just need guys behind desks pressing buttons. So
And
that's why the strong man is not required anymore. But in fact, the strong man is probably a threat.
well, he is a threat. And and you know what's interesting, mate, is that now they you know, every generation, whenever there's an agenda, you notice that there's a vocabulary attached to that. For example,
Mm.
at the beginning it was like super spreaders, right? Or then you got like terrorist cells, if it's going to be on terrorism. Every
Mm-hmm.
agenda or every has like what's, you know, the key vocabulary that everyone will adapt. And because words become reality, you know,
Yes.
it's a magic. It's a type of magic. You know, you put your words out there and they will manifest. You know, especially when under carried by emotions such as joy great exultation or fear, that's when things
Anxiety.
manifest. Yeah, exactly. And then, we're talking about the occult last time. Unfortunately, we lost last week's podcast, and it's kind of a bummer. So
Yes.
today, as soon as I finish, I'm just gonna wait till it's done and send it to you right away to make sure there's no snags with that. But
No props.
yeah, and so now the new you're talking about were a threat, and I believe so. That's why you got things like the word uh toxic masculinity.
Yes, toxic masculinity.
Yeah, there's no.
That just popped up out of nowhere, didn't it?
Yeah, and the word toxic in general, I don't even, this is the first time I really say that word. Like, I don't get into those, or like the whole terms like that's so cringy, and it's like, oh, these
Mm.
popular words that just drive me insane, dude. But yeah, but you don't hear things like toxic femininity, right?
You won't.
I guess toxic femininity, what is that? Like the prostitute in the
But that
corner?
used to they used to call them toxic before,
Mm.
when the agenda was for the man to be strengthened and for the woman to be suppressed.
Yeah,
Then it was all about, women talk too much, or women do this, and it was all against women. And
yeah, yeah.
Eve gave Adam the apple, and it was all emphasized. Now you can't even talk about that apple anymore. That's prejudice. That's toxic.
Yeah, yeah, well,
That's
because
toxic behavior.
there is that agenda to keep masculinity is just
No.
masculinity. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. That's called being an
And
idiot.
femininity. And
That,
femininity.
yeah,
Being
exactly,
feminine is also, it's got its own way of being. And
exactly. Femininity and masculinity are just expressions of of human beings based on their sex, and yeah, ain't
hormones,
nothing wrong with that.
the dominant hormone.
Oh, exactly, the dominant hormone, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. It's called being an idiot. That's it. Being an asshole. That's it. You're either a jerk or you're not a jerk. And
And
but
testosterone, masculinity has got an element of aggression to it.
yeah, but it's got its purpose to it.
It's got its purpose. The aggression is not, it's not wild violence. It's protective aggression. The masculinity wants to protect what it holds dear to it. So to protect that, it's not going to negotiate. Like I said earlier, it's not negotiation. It's about martial settlements. We're gonna
Yes, yes.
fight it out, because there's no way I can't agree with you, because you're gonna go behind my back next week and do something sneaky. So
Mhm.
what I have to do is eradicate the threat right now, and you just have to go, or I have to go. Whoever wins takes
Well,
over the.
it's the fire element of the human
Mm.
beings, and they both have their place. They both are necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this whole new vocabulary and how everybody gets upset about everything, and everybody's the sensitivity of everybody, man. Like, we used to be able to take it and okay, let me give you an example, mate. If you notice, kids nowadays, you have like all the participation trophies and shit like that. Like in the old days, if you got a trophy, that
You have to
trophy
have
was,
one.
yeah, like you looked at the front, like, that motherfucker's badass. He got a fucking trophy. That trophy,
Yeah,
he earned that motherfucking trophy. And so it had a certain aura to it, a certain mystique, because
right.
yeah, because you knew what that guy went through, or that person went through to get that trophy. Now everybody gets like a participation trophy, and
Yes.
so now we have kids, for example, that when they're playing games, if they lose, they fucking cry and shit because they don't win. And
Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example, and then you can take over on that. The name, bingo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, in the States, when we play bingo, once somebody gets bingo on a card, then that's it. Then
Yeah.
you got to get a new card and start
Yeah.
again. Yeah, right. So you usually have a bunch of cards. In Japan, it's not like that, mate. In Japan, everybody's got to win bingo, dude.
Before
There's
before
no
they change the.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so if you get bingo, then you stay out and then keep going till everybody gets bingo. So there's no loser. And what that teaches people is that life is just you get everything and there's no struggle and there's nothing to strive for. There's nothing to better yourself from. And so when you have a hard situation come to you, then right away you either cry or you start complaining or you kill yourself because you can't deal with the fact that things are not easy or that there's a change in life. And so with this participation trophies all happening right now, like when I was a little kid and we were playing a game, if you lost, you lost. You're just like, fuck it, dude, let's play again.
Yeah, but they required our creativity back then. They required our creativity back then. How can I word this? We was getting to a stage in humanity where people had realized that there was this thing called creativity and technology. We could advance things, but what we need is innovative minds. So the way to get innovative minds is to cause a lot of competition amongst people, create a lot of competition amongst them, and through that competition, somebody's going to come out with, okay, he's going to come out with this idea, and I'm going to have to better that, and we're going to have to keep bettering it to win the competition. And that was the way we had all these things now, technology, and this guy made a car, and Ferrari made one even better, and that competitive edge built society because they couldn't just whip us. They couldn't just whip us into creating things. They could whip us into building buildings, but they can't whip us into the
No, no,
creative
no,
inventions.
no, 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 no.
So that required competition to forge, to bring that out of people.
Well,
Now
they took the physical shackles off the slaves, and let me tell you, exactly, and they kept the mental shackles. So I mean, they realized that it's this in serfdom, right? Uh, they work better if you produce better. If you just they'll beat
if
them and,
you just convince them that they're free, but
yeah,
lay out the options,
yeah.
lay
But
out the race.
but good point. Yeah, we had that in society, and so people try to better yourself. So you didn't just like if you lost, you didn't just crawl up in the corner. Sure, there were kids like that too, but most kids is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fucking get you next time. You watch, and you kept coming back.
Competition that kept leading to new innovations and new creations and new ideas. But I think they've got to a place where they feel like, you know what, we're comfortable with the amount of creativity and amount of inventions we've got so far. So we don't need people to come up with all these new creative ideas because eventually it's going to lead to a rebellion, probably. They could be scared that, okay, if you keep putting people at this competition, eventually they're going to realize, actually, why are we even competing? Why don't we just take out the guys at the top? So they need to dull that part of the human mind. And it's mainly, I'm not saying it's a masculine trait, but it's a testosterone driven trait.
Yeah,
Because even females have testosterone too.
of course.
Competition is testosterone driven. So what they're doing, they're putting things in society that make everybody ridicule testosterone or masculinity. Let me not say masculinity, let me just say testosterone driven behaviors. So they're ridiculing them because that way they can stop people from, the competition and the advancing, and is competition leads to I mean, it leads to innovation. I can't think of the
No,
right word.
no, it does. It's this perfect word. It does. We don't need to get a fancy word. I think that the simpler the better. So and so we've got this. We've made this fluffy society, and then when the fluff, like the bubble wrap, bursts and somebody gets poked a little bit, it's like and everybody just goes crazy at each other, and they just want to. There's no focus of people in together now. Everybody's just at each other because you notice even within like some of the groups that form, they'll go at each other's throats too when they disagree. Like, we also used to have like different ideas back in the days. I can go in the room and then my friend will walk in and he was a white boy with long blonde hair or whatever, be like, Hey, what's up, you fucking beaner, dude? When was the last time you ate your fucking tacos, you fucking Mexicans?
Yeah,
You know, and then I'd throw one back at him, like, ah, you fucking white, you fucking redneck, dude. When was the last time you went and fucking pitched some hay with your pitchfork? You know, something
that
like
kind of
that.
banter.
Yeah. And you know, we weren't serious, but we were best friends. And
Or
nowadays,
even testing each other out because we knew that out there the banter was even harsher. So we're even preparing ourselves for the
well,
regular banter.
yeah, that's how,
That,
actually that was important because yeah, as you said, out there the banter was a little harder, and it's a way that we not only it's kind of like when we wrestle as kids and stuff like that.
yeah, we
It's a
prepared
way of
ourselves for the
playing,
outside world.
you know. Well, same thing with words. We kind of push each other like that, give
Yeah,
what we call bromance, you know.
yes.
And we just kind of get ourselves ready for the outside world, you know. But now the world is too safe, there are all these safe places, and it's just like,
Yes, so they don't require that banter anymore. They don't require that kind of behavior. Perfect
no.
example. Look, and I don't. I'm not saying that I want things to go to this year, but I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
When the old Spartans, what they used to do
I was
as
just
soon as
watching. I real quick when you said we're gonna go on Spartans, I just rewatched 300.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant movie, man, brilliant
Brilliant
movie.
movie. Well, of
So you
course
must have,
they
so that
overdid it
means
a little bit, but you know it was pretty good. Anyway,
obviously
continue.
they've had to make it look animated and
Yeah.
dramatic and
It was
cinematic.
badass. It was badass, though. It was badass.
So you must have seen the bit recently when the newborn babies are checked for physical defects, and
Yeah.
any child that had a defect was thrown into a pit. And I'm saying again, I'm not saying that that's how things should be, but the reason they did that was because at that time there was a lot of war going on, and Sparta, they were known and they had a reputation for being macho and very strong, and one man was as strong as
Well,
four men.
it was
So
a
they
it
had to
was it
check
was
them.
a it was a warrior based society. So
Yes, so so when that's what they needed. So they used to check them, and any child with a defect is a bit sad was thrown into a pit.
yes.
But that was how they built a very strong society. So
Mm.
it's always an agenda because that was the reason they needed strong men. So that was the reason why they did that. So at this point in time, they don't need those sort of guys. They don't
Nope.
need Spartans
I've been
in
telling people
society
that
today.
shit. That's a fucking threat because usually revolutions start with men, bro. We're the
Yeah,
ones that will disagree and say, "Nah, we gotta fucking take it to these motherfuckers because it ain't." We're the ones that are going to protect the family and
so
you.
imagine 10,000 men saying this and coming together in one group. They don't need this. It's not good for the structure of democracy and the way things run now. It doesn't require that sort of behavior. So that's why they will do their best to dull that and nullify that behavior
Mm,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not required for the current agenda. And you can if you see if
Well,
you see where things are going, you will see that it's not necessary. So that's why they try to eradicate it.
well, wait, and you know what's interesting? You say that too. If you notice, like a lot of modern living has a big time effect on hormones, bro. It fucks
Of
up the hormones, and
course.
a lot of problems recently, like a big problem is, you know, a lot of birth defects and a lot of people, women can't get pregnant or males can't don't
Yes.
have viable sperm. It's in our fucking food. It's in a lot of the shit that's out there. That's why I'm so glad that I'm going to be growing my own shit. You know, and you can't get away from toxins all the way. You know what I mean? The air is polluted, whatever. But I'm talking about a lot of the processed food and all this. It's everywhere, and it's causing. You know, there's a great, like, if you want to say epidemic, a great pandemic of reproduction, problems with reproduction, bro. You know,
Yes.
and an imbalance in hormones and people, you know, getting all moody and depressed, and it has to do with your hormones imbalance, bro. And you know, and this in Japan too, bro. I think it's everywhere. If you notice, males now they're trying to create this new male where he's really feminine and super
Yeah.
skinny and you
Yeah.
and I don't think a lot of people realize how how not good that is, bro.
They won't, because the people will follow. People like to follow an agenda. There's not many people that break out and have strong minds. I'm not trying to insult people. I'm just
Mm.
saying that
Yeah.
most people, it's easier to follow. Yeah, and it's the same for me. If there was a big plan, there was a big leader, and he had this big plan where everyone would go that way, and that's where the food is, that's where water is. I'll follow as well, because it's easy. Then for you to come up, it's not easy for you to lead. It's not easy to be a leader. So when the leader is saying, okay, you know what, right now, men, being toxic masculine is terrible.
Hey, no.
It's trending. So if they feel like, okay, yeah, it's true. I think men should be a bit more soft and more feminine. So all of a sudden, if you're not that type of man, you can't date. You can't
Yeah,
date
no, you
because
can't. No, you can't. Oh man,
yeah,
I'm glad. I'm
that's the
glad.
only thing.
I'm glad you said that because about 7 years ago, while being, before I went back to the States for a little bit, I started noticing that trend. And, I don't think like I'm some super macho dude or whatever, and
Even
what
worse.
people don't understand is that masculinity doesn't mean that you can't get your ass kicked. That's not what that means. But,
Yeah,
but, but,
there's
but,
no
but
saving you from that.
no, but
That can always happen. That's always possible.
I embrace and I love expressing the masculine side of humanity. Yeah, I think it's beautiful. Just like, and I want to see women express the feminine side because it's awesome, you know.
Yes.
And so what I started noticing like a lot of the young boys here, like they're very effeminate, bro. And like their chests are caving in, their hands are really soft and thin, and then the chicks will be the ones that are drinking them under the table and shit like that. And so they're in this magazine. It says that the guys, if they don't, coming from some guy says, if we don't dress this way, we don't become this way, then we can't get dates because the women.
Yes.
And then what women wrote was is that women don't want the masculine men anymore because they're difficult to control.
Yes.
Who says anything about control? You don't have to control me, and I'm not gonna
Yeah,
control
but
you, baby.
that's the new agenda. That's the new agenda. And maybe, if the shoe fits, you wear it. And maybe back in the days, it was what was trendy was for women to have a dominant man and the man that was in charge and he could
Mm,
run things because that's the kind of world we lived in. But like I said, things have changed, and it's hard for maybe people coming from our generation because
mm,
we had a flavor of what it was like back then, and for us to now change over to this new way of being is much
mm,
difficult because we was not indoctrinated, we wasn't born into it.
mm.
So that's all it is. I mean, if we was born into it, then we wouldn't even have an issue with it. We would be of the new generation, would be of the new class of men.
Mm.
But we're just caught in that generational limbo where we was born in a time that was different,
Well,
and now times have changed.
how old are you, bro? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm 37.
Oh yeah, you're not that far away from me. You're not. Yeah, you're almost 40. I'm gonna be 50 in June. And oh, listen, every man has a feminine side to him, and every woman has a masculine side. We have we have both. Like we males mostly, in most of the part, we exhibit
Mhm.
the masculine side and with a touch of femininity. And females, fem, they
Yin
express
yang,
mostly
the
yeah.
yin yang.
And so we have
So
that. But I'll tell you what, mate. I'm gonna die this way, bro, because there's no fucking way you can beat the fucking strawberries into me, dude. It's just it ain't happening. You know what I mean? I'm not putting on
yeah,
the fucking fluffy slippers, you know.
I mean it's hard. It's hard. You can't just change us from what we was conditioned and born into.
No, but my son in California, he's 26. Yeah, I mean, he's got a little bit of and this guy, he likes hip hop and he likes metal, and so he writes both music. So he's got a little bit kind of like the emo look. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
But he still likes to exercise and get his muscles on, And it's because I taught him that. I'm like, look, son, I mean, you don't have to be exactly like your dad, but a man's a man. And there's something beautiful about that male body that you have been given. It's you've been loaned this body. And along with that body comes a responsibility, just like women. They've been given that body for a reason. And that comes a responsibility. And so you
Yes.
use that body to the best and use that masculinity or that testosterone for the best that you can to do people
Mhm.
some good. And so yeah, he still wears he used to wear skinny jeans and shit like that. His clothes may not be to my taste, whatever, but that's his generation. And my clothes wasn't a taste for my fucking parents either.
Mhm.
But he's 26 and he's not all caught into that bullshit. And he's quite manly and he's a good looking man, and I'm pleased, even though, he's got his own style and great. He says, Dad, you're a bit old school, but I love you, Pops. You're classic. and
Mhm.
and so that's good. But yeah, you're gonna you couldn't beat the fluffy slippers onto me, bro. It ain't working, dude. I'll spray paint them.
I feel the same. I feel the same. To
But
be
within
honest.
but within that same token, it's like we don't have to hate each other for it. And that's where it becomes bad, because when people start, look, if you want to be fluffy, then be fucking fluffy. I'm just telling you, I ain't gonna be fucking fluffy. And it doesn't mean that your fluffiness is hideous and my unfluffiness is toxic. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I
I feel like
go
I
ahead.
feel like I feel the they keep saying this is the era of inclusion. So now they include the transsexuals, they include the gays, they include the lesbians, but actually I don't feel that inclusiveness,
No,
because
no,
why have you included the
that
alpha male?
inclusivity. No, no.
Why have you not included the alpha male? Then? Why have you if this is the era of inclusiveness, then include the alpha male as well.
Yeah,
You know,
right, right. But there's no
that's what
such.
I'm saying, because
But
the alpha male, the toxic male, has been totally excluded. But actually, if you're included everything, then include that too.
do you know why? Because the alpha male usually calls a spade a spade. Because we talk shit, bro.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, you don't necessarily have to be cruel about it. We talk shit. We and that's what guys do. We punk each other. We kind of put that finger like, nah, you're full of shit, bro. And they don't want that because they can't. Again, it's the tro- the participation trophies where everybody, if you don't get one or if you lose a game, you cry. And so they don't want us to play because we're rough in the sandbox, bro. Because we're gonna throw sand in the eyes. But it doesn't
And it's sad,
necessarily.
because it does cause a lot of mental health damage. I know it could be a
Yes.
subject that we could laugh at, but
Mm. Yes, yes,
some
yes.
men are suffering. Some men are really suffering with this because
I
they
think so
feel
too.
like really excluded from the whole world. It's like the one thing that the one way of behaving that everyone is telling you is wrong. you know. And it's
Yeah.
not like the alpha male that goes around beating people. I'm just talking about a man that's assertive and he's very. There's a bit of aggression. There's a bit of oomph to him,
Dude, a,
and
a fucking dude, a bloke.
a bit of a rough, bit of
Yeah,
a rough
yeah, yeah.
wild man, a bit of the wild man, and that's looked is. I mean, people don't look at it very kindly
Well,
these
well,
days.
well, everybody has like, and everybody's got their freaking pride parade nowadays. It's like, oh, I'm proud to be this, I'm proud to be that, but hey, I'm proud of my balls too, bro. I love my balls, you know?
And the society nowadays makes you feel a bit excluded. If you're
Yes.
that way, if you're that way of being, then you will feel a bit excluded. You will feel a bit lonely, and it's not always hatred. It's just that lack of feeling of being included. So you
Yes.
might think that they hate you, but it's no, they're just ignoring you. There's a difference. So they might not even hate the wild man. They just totally ignore him, and then through that ignoring, he can now start coming up with assumptions. Oh, maybe they don't like me. Maybe this, because that's his mental health that's being attacked,
Yeah, I
and
think
that's why he's now coming up with things, and that's why he's feeling certain ways, because it will affect you, man. And no matter how strong you are,
Well,
it's gonna.
a lot of people have gotten affected. I guess I don't get affected in that way. I get annoyed is what it is. Um, and I think one of the things that I've always been kind of like, I just do my shit and I do it my way, even though I might get annoyed or I might get pissed off at something. I don't feel the need to be accepted all the time. We all do to some point, but and one of the things that have done that for me is the music that I listen to. It's not just the music, it's the specific type of culture, and it's very unique culture that is heavy metal, that it's anywhere in the world. There's heavy metal anywhere, and you can go anywhere in the world and you could, somebody that just wears a hat like this or whatever, there's that instant connection, and the music transcends the ages. And we are the black sheep of the music industry in general. Still to this day, heavy metal always gets the bad fucking name. And that music has kind of given me that attitude, you know.
Mm,
So I mean, fuck. I went to go take my driver's exam in Japan, dude. Check this out. Wearing this shit, right?
yeah, I agree. Then.
With a fucking samurai bleed, and the people here, they don't really, they just kind of like tripping, like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Even my wife told me, "You went to go take your test like that and pass or something." Yeah, I don't give a shit. You know, then all the other guys, like a lot of the young kids from university, they're better dressed than the fucking girls, bro. And this boy had like a strawberry fucking mushroom earring, and the other guys kind of touching it. Oh, look, and they're not necessarily gay or anything like that. They're just fluffed out, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I've dressed like, I mean, I wear my suits too. I got my fedora hats and stuff like that. Like I like to wear the classic shit too, with my fucking necktie. I'll take my wife out on the town like that with some nice proper Italian boots and shit, dude.
Mhm.
But I've been dressing like this exactly the same way since I was like 15, bro. You know, and I still got my bands, and it's that attitude. And so yeah, you're
Mm.
talking about exclusive, that
Yeah,
you want to
for
be
me,
accepted. You know, I
yeah,
guess
for
we
me,
all do
like,
at some point.
I guess, yeah, for me, sometimes I feel like I do want to be accepted, but accepted exactly the way I am.
Mm.
And when I don't get accepted that way, I don't. It's not even like I get angry. I feel almost sad. It's for me. It's a feeling of sadness. It's almost like
Yes, yes, it is. It is a feeling of sadness. And okay, let me rewind a little bit. Before I had met my family, because I was going through a nervous breakdown. Act not. I went through a nervous breakdown for like 7 years. Really bad psychological breakdown. Got to the point where I slit my wrist, and somebody took me to the hospital to save my life. And so I went back to the U.S. to gather my mind and stuff, see what I was gonna do. And so yeah, I was sad because I didn't. I wanted. We all want to be part of some group, but I don't want to be
Mhm.
part of the group full time. You know what I mean? Like I like to roam around and shit like that. But now that I have my family, like I have my wife and my kid, as long as my wife and my kids love me, I don't pretty much give a fuck if anybody else likes me. But we are human beings, and most people, human beings, we function off each other's love and acceptance and understanding. And when we lack some of that, yeah, it can cause emotional or mental problems. And that's what a lot of people, like you're saying, they're not realizing what it's doing. Everybody's all caught up in their little rage now,
Yeah,
but we're just hurting each other like that, mate. You know, and we all, if we can just agree to disagree, you want to be fluffy, then be fucking fluffy. But you don't
Mhm.
want to be fluffy. You want to be a fucking brute with a fucking kind of like an ogre, then you be that, and we'll work together in the society
Yeah.
because it shouldn't, we shouldn't be threatened by it. We shouldn't be offended by it. We should embrace each other's difference. But my only thing is that if the difference has been put upon us through subtle indoctrination for the purpose of manipulating us.
That's always, yeah, that's literally always in the background.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Most of the time there is always a greater agenda. As long as there's people in power, there's always going to be an agenda.
Yes. 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 There's always going to be an agenda.
They're never just going to be in power and just say, okay, everyone just free flow in the Garden of Eden, just flow. It's not. I mean,
Where the Kentucky Fried Chicken rains from the
yeah.
sky.
Otherwise they wouldn't be in power themselves. They would all just be flowing. It would just nobody. There'll be no leaders. It would just be everyone just doing whatever.
Well, have you seen the whole thing about the Great Reset? You know,
No, not much, but I've heard bits and bobs.
there's this one bloke, and I forget his name. Because I try not to watch that shit all day, because I was watching that too much, and then it just makes you depressed. It's just like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm just gonna grow my own
Yeah.
tomatoes, and if you step on my land, I'm gonna fucking beat the shit out of you and have my dogs bite you. You want to fucking blow up the world? You do your shit. Leave me on top of my mountain. Don't fuck with me. That's it. I don't want to be part of it. That's why I want to do my own shit. But anyway, this whole Great Reset is that they're trying to take ownership from everybody. Kind of like a little communist fucking, kumbaya and shit, and saying you will own nothing and you'll be happy. But okay, what happened to all the shit?
Some Cuba Che Guevara kind of business.
Yeah, well, but check this out, okay? But check this out. I won't own anything. But whoever's fucking allotting the stuff for people to use, I'm not gonna own it, but you motherfuckers are. And you're gonna be happy. What do you mean? I'll be happy. Don't fucking tell me if I'm gonna be happy I can't own my fucking shoes and shit, dude. They're my fucking shoes. There's some things that do belong to each person. You know what I mean? Like my dick is my dick.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with me owning a car. Now, is it affordable for people to get a car? But we need certain things that belong to us. Can we share? Yeah, but I think there's kind of like a little seediness to this whole thing. Like, we're gonna take everything away from you, and you're gonna be happy.
No, you're just gonna be workers. That's what you're gonna be.
Yeah, and we're gonna tell you exactly. Part of the agenda too is that they're
when
trying
the
to buy.
Starts. We'll tell you when your shift starts.
Dude, check this out. Also, they're trying to buy out all the property and prevent people from living in nature, and just have everybody live in urban cities. And that's another thing that's not good. We need to have that connection with nature, and that's why I'm so happy that I'm going to be pretty much. I'll be sending you videos, bro. I mean, when we close our doors at night, until I get my dogs, we're gonna be surrounded by wild pigs and deers because they come down. They're everywhere. And you got the river right down the street. To every every square kilometer, only 13 people live per square kilometer. That's nothing. There's hardly anybody. It's in.
No matter how much they try to urbanize the landscape, they can't take away the whole of the forest. They can't. And if they did take away the whole of the forest, we're all gonna die anyway.
Well, no, what I'm saying is they're trying to prevent people from living there.
Yes, so they've taken away all the relatively safe spots. They've turned them into urban cities and build-ups and whatever, but there's still treacherous parts in the jungle. There's still places where people can live in nature, but they're a bit more treacherous.
Yes.
Because those are the bits where they thought, you know what?
Well, yeah,
we're not going to cover with that.
Well, you can't separate humanity, because nowadays we can't say man anymore because it's okay. When I say, why can't say we can't separate women? Well, take away woe and there's still man on there, So why don't you name it something else then? Meaning human beings. You can't take
man.
You can't take humanity from nature. We can't separate us because look what it is right now.
Man is in woman, man is in woman, is in human, is in man.
Yeah, they're gonna do it in about 20 years.
Just can't get rid of the man.
Well, they're trying to change the language right now with everything. And I'm not gonna call you it or fucking who or whatever. Look, dude, hey girl, what's up? And if you wanna get offended, then get offended, but or we can have a big hug and just fucking hang out. Yeah, I remember once I got in a fight with this bloke at 7-Eleven, and I was a dick about it, actually. And I was a dick about it. 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 And I was I was a bit too drunk at the time when I used to drink, and I was smoking some cigarettes too. So I'd had like something like 10 cigarettes and a six pack of beer.
Mm.
And so I just turned 40, and this 22-year-old construction worker that was quite fit, you know, he seemed to be carrying some anger too, and I was carrying some anger too. And so I called him on his shit. I was out here in Japan, and I called him on his shit, and I said, "So what's up, fool?" And then he threw his hands up in the air, and so I went over and I grabbed him, and I was able to throw him, because I do grappling and stuff, and I got him down pretty quickly. I was like, "Oh, fucking hell, this dude's done now. I'm gonna choke him out." And then I was able to get side control, and then I went for the mount. And right when I was going for the mount, he fucking oopad, he bridged.
Use tips. Yeah.
He bridged, and normally I know how to counter that, but I was quite inebriated, bro. And then when I was standing, I couldn't eat him in his face. But see, in Japan, if you get into a fight and if you break his face, you got to pay for his face.
Mm.
And so I didn't want to get fully in trouble by because I could have knocked him out already. And so anyway, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna grapple this guy, and I'm going to be able to take all his weapons. I'm just gonna destabilize him and shit. And then exhaustion just hit me suddenly, bro, and it became a survival match for me.
Mm.
And I had a beer like this, and he was grabbing me by the beer from here, but it didn't. But it didn't hurt, either because of the adrenaline or
Of
because
course.
I was quite smashed. And then, so what I did is I just put my hand on his collar, and I just kept him at a distance, and he couldn't close that gap. And I just kept moving around. And finally, things turned around again. And I got my second wind, and he started getting tired. And so what I did is I brought him in close, and then I bear hugged him from his lower back, and I lifted him up, and there was this electrical panel box outside. And
Mm.
I slammed him right on his lower back, and then put all my pressure on him. And he was bent like an L and shit. So he couldn't move. And then right when I was about to start kneeing him on his nuts, he stopped. Like, my friend was behind my back. I told him, don't get involved unless I'm gonna get jumped. And then his friends didn't get involved either. They're just watching to make sure that nothing's happened, that nothing illegal, that nobody's gonna get taken advantage of. We're both gonna just handle our business.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he finally just said, like, "Oh, I've had enough," he said in Japanese. And the guy starts tapping on my back, the other guy, and I wouldn't let him go. I'm like, "Dude, if I let you go and if you're gonna start punching me, I'm gonna crack you in the nuts, bro." Anyway, long story short, he took off, I took off, and then we would see each other. We would see each other like every other day. He was going to work, and then I would be going to work, and he'd be on the other side of the sidewalk, on the other side of the street. And then I was like, and I used to look at him, and I was like, "I'm not drunk anymore, bro. We can go to the park. We can handle our business now, you know." And so I had a little bit of pride, and he had a little bit of pride. And then
Mm.
one day, when I was working out of my house, there was construction across the street from my house. So these painters and carpenters came to take care of my neighbor's house, and they set up the scaffold. And the guy who was in charge, the manager, the owner of the company who's taking care of all the remodeling, I know him. And the guy that I got into a fight with, the young kid, he was working for him. And when he saw me, he kind of freaked out a little bit, not because I was gonna light him up, because we both brought it to town. It was like a 12, 13 minute match, bro, just back and forth in the middle of the street with cars zooming by. That's the last time I ever got in a fight, and I'm happy about that. That was about 9 years ago. And
Mm.
so he looked at me, got all freaked out, and put his head down. And so I went to 7-Eleven, and I came back, and I called him over, and he came over, try to put his chest up a little bit and stuff like that. He's a pretty big kid, actually. I had some nice arms, fucking quite beefy. I was thinking, what the fuck am I thinking at my age? Getting a fight with a kid like that? I could have got lit up, you know. And so then I looked at him, and I said, "You know what? I told him in Japanese, and here's the lesson of it all. Man. Back in the days, we can handle our business, and then we could take it like this, and then just give each other a hug. And I told him, I'm like, I was an idiot. Actually, I instigated that fight. So I apologize to you, bro. I was going through some shit with my wife at the time, and I just took it out on you. And he looked down, and some tears came out of his eyes, bro. And I said, you know what, bro? I owe you some beers, fool. And I gave him some beers, and I gave him a hug, dude. And he told me, I thought you were gonna tell my boss. I'm like, I'm not gonna take your bread away from you. I'm not gonna cancel you. You know what I mean? This kid was pretty much me. He had the same attitude. And one of the reasons why I hated him at the time, or what I had so much rage, because he reminded me of me. It's what it is. That sometimes we don't get when we see another person, it reminds us of the things that we hate about ourselves, but we think we like about ourselves. And I told him that I saw you and I hated you because it was a reminder of me, right? And maybe the whole image is messed up, but I gave him a hug, and I said, I would never take a bread away from you, man, and you keep on being you. And that was it, bro. And so the moral of the story is like, just because we disagree with somebody, or sometimes when we want to fight with other people, argue with other people, I think we're probably just fighting ourselves, some unhappiness that we have within ourselves.
Yeah.
And back then, the whole cancel culture still wasn't up there. This was 9 years ago. But he thought I was gonna, because in Japan, if I would have told his boss, he would have got fired, mate. He would have got fired for that, because here is about reputation. Like, cops will call your job if you do something wrong and shit. Yeah. And you'll get in trouble with your boss and shit like that. It's kind of like, I'm gonna tell your mommy kind of shit. I hate that shit. But boys and girls, this whole thing about taking nobody shits flowers, and you don't have the right to go put somebody on YouTube and take away their livelihood just because you don't agree with what they have to say. You know what I mean? So I wanted to share that story with you because
really nice.
First of all, it showed my ignorance at the time, and I'm glad I don't act like that anymore. But it reminded me a little bit of what's going on right now with the cancel culture and stuff like that. But I don't know if you have a similar stories like that, but we grew up with stories like that. We get in a fight and we end up becoming best friends with the motherfucker afterward.
Yeah, many stories like that.
So did you get to live in Nigeria, man?
Yeah, I did for about 6 years, 7 years. I did.
So before we take off, man, tell me a little bit about the town. So how was it? How old were you when you were there, and how was it? Do they have that cancel culture shit over there too?
It was a bit different. No, I probably went there when I was about 8, and I came back when I was about 13. So during that time, and no, it wasn't a cancel culture. It was very wild, I would say. Very wild. It was almost like being in the jungle. And it was very chaotic, but there was also structured. It was very disciplined. Back then, the teachers were allowed to give us a smack, and they used to make us do things like marching. We used to march in the morning. We would march into the classroom. When a teacher came in, we would all have to stand up. Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, they have that here. They have that here still.
Yeah, we used to do that, and we had homework. We were held more accountable for things. It wasn't like when I came back here. You're not really accountable for a lot of things over here. It's like, you can sort of just do what you want. Not that you can do what you want, but it's not so strict. So you get away with a lot more. But over there, you're held accountable. Why did you do that? And you're given responsibilities, and you're taught how to be a bit more aware and conscious of their actions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like Colombia. Japan still has stuff like that, man. When I worked as a teacher, you know, as soon as you get there, the students have to stand up and greet you, and before we leave,
Yes.
they have to stand up and say goodbye and thank you for the class.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think our kids too become too spoiled and they feel too entitled. You know, they've lost their respect for the grandparents and for the parents and stuff like that. Like in my days, if you called your dad or your mom by their name, dude, you will have no more teeth, bro.
Yeah. That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
You'd be like, this is for, you know what I mean? And nowadays, you know, you got like these hippie kids and shit like that. It's like, hey George, could you pet this? Like, George, shit, dude, you better get back in that kitchen, boy. You know, old grandmas used to would slap the silly out of you, dude. You know. Hold on, I think we froze here. Yeah, we're losing a bit of internet connection.
So if you did that back in the days, you'd be going back into the nutsack.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like back in the days, your grandma would be like, "Boy, I'll slap your hair straight."
You know, trust me, and it will go straight. It will go straight for a split second.
Or I'll slap you into next week or some shit like that.
Not for a split second. For a split second, when you're getting that beating, even the afro hair will stand up.
Fuck.
You know, like a dog. You know, when a dog's about to fight and the hair stands up in the back.
Yeah.
Your hair will spike.
With our grandma,
the hair will spike your hair up.
Yeah. Grandmas gave you love, but grandmas will beat the shit out of you too if you got stupid with them. Your grandmas didn't fuck around. So, you know, they fucking lit you up. But anyway, I guess
that's a word that's been lost. A word that we loved. A word that we also hated back then. Because we also complained about it back then. Let's not forget to mention that bit. When we were going through that, we used to moan about that.
Yeah, but in a way, you know, like
but now it's gone. But now it's gone. It's like we want it back.
I don't really want the fucking abuse I went through and stuff like that, but some of the other stuff, you know, I don't mind. You know, I don't regret the few times that I deserved getting a spanking or whatever, you know, like got smacked upside the head because I was acting like an idiot, you know. But I guess we'll have to see how everything is going to transpire. If God willing, I can squeeze out another 50 years without shitting in my pants. Well, brother love, like always, bring it in, man. Give us a cherry topping, man. We had a great today was kind of a chill talk, man. It's kind of a chill talk. I liked it.
I'm gonna just give us a quote from a guru that I like to listen to. His name's Sadhguru. And there was this thing he said once. He goes, everybody looks at the apple tree, and no, Einstein, or was it Newton, that gave us the laws of gravity. He showed us an apple falling from a tree onto the ground, but nobody ever took notice of the tree that was growing upwards against gravity.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a good one, man. That's true. That fucking tree was beating ass, dude. You know what I mean?
We look at the apple dropping, but how about the tree, the little tree that was growing upwards against the forces of gravity?
That's right. And I think we can use that for the title of the podcast, Runes. And like always, we all get together with you guys watching and with us talking. Friendship is beautiful, guys. Human contact. Take that mask off, go breathe some fresh air, go hug somebody, and get together and create that friction. And slowly the heat comes, the heat of love and the ball of light to bear upon the world. We keep it jungly like always. We keep it silly. And Brother K, man, dude, did I ever tell you I love your fucking smile, bro?
Cheers, bro.
All right, man. So I'll give you a call during the weekend before I take off. If I'll send you a message if you're not available, just give me a call back. I'm gonna go ahead and get this video going so I can send it out to you tonight. Okay?
Yes, brother.
Okay. Peace and love, man.
Yes,
okay.
Brother.
Cheers, man. My regards to your family.
Yes, and likewise, my regards to your family too.
Okay. Thanks, buddy. Love you, man. Bye-bye.